Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to talk about Zero Trust Assessment, right? So what is that and how it is going to help us, right? So first, let's look at what is Zero Trust, right? You might have been going through the many articles, blogs, and many maybe video assessments and everything, and you might be aware about the Zero Trust, right? But still, I'm going to talk more and show you how we can export out a Zero Trust assessment, or rather, we can export the Zero Trust assessment from the tenant, and then that is going to help us to see how our Zero Trust maturity is, right? And then how we can help ourselves to improve on our security posture, right? So let's look at how or what is Zero Trust first, and then we'll look into the other bits, how we can run the Zero Trust assessment on the tenant, and then how we can execute it, right? So let's see. First, what is Zero Trust? Zero Trust is a security model, right, that assumes breach every time and explicitly verifies each and every request which is going to come through, right? And wherever from it is originates, we are going to explicitly verify it, and from any locations, be it control network, uncontrolled network, and we don't have any visibility on it at all, right? And zero trust model is based on the principle of never trust, right? Which is going to do the always verify and assume breach, right? So zero trust model is holistic approach where we are going to secure each and every aspects of the network infrastructure, including networks, applications, and all environments, be it cloud environment, distributed environments, and everything, right? So zero trust model is going to be applied on identity, devices, applications, data infrastructure, as well as the network. Be even it is the private network or any network, even if it is a corporate network or unmanaged network as well, right? So that's a short and simple about zero trust, right? So there are many different definitions and defined how that zero trust is going to be, right? And how the zero trust is going to work, right? So let's understand what is zero trust assessment. So zero trust assessment is something which we can run on the tenant and is going to help us to get and help us to improve our security posture on the tenant, right? So I'm going to show you how we can run that zero trust assessment and then export the report so that that report can be utilized to work on the improvement on our zero trust security posture, right? So that is going to give us the complete visibility, what we have configured, what is not configured. And this assessment, or there is a PowerShell module that I'm going to install on the PowerShell and execute that. And note that this PowerShell module is not developed by Microsoft. Instead, this module is developed by Microsoft uh, employees. They are running this module or this project as a community project, right? And this project is being maintained by them. So this project is not supported by Microsoft, supported as an any help and any technical support or any kind of those support services. Even if we reach out to those teams, Microsoft won't be able to help in this case because this is a community project and this is not managed and maintained by the Microsoft at all, right? So let's talk a bit about what are the permissions that it needs. As you understood that this project or this tool is not supported by Microsoft, that means definitely there might be a questions whether we should trust this, whether we should use it, and what are the permissions we are going to grant to this tool when we are going to execute it on our tenant, execute on our environment, right? So there are certain permissions that this tool needs to be able to get through, and then it is going to give us the complete report from the tenant so that we can execute this tenant or this assessment, and then we get the complete report. So let's head over to the screen and I'll show you the permissions as well as how we can install this PowerShell module so that we can go ahead and start the assessment run tool, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Let me share screen quickly here. All right. So here I am on the screen, and here you can see that here are the number of permissions this tool needs to be able to export all the capabilities that we have deployed and installed across the tenant, right? And this is going to give us the complete details about the Zero Trust maturity model across the Microsoft 365 environment. And by exporting all of those permissions or all of those reports and capabilities, we would be able to go ahead and take it further for our Zero Trust security improvements, right? So let's go ahead and do that. I'll simply open up a PowerShell here quickly, and then I will run those commands. So I have those commands here with me. So this is the first command, which is going to install this PowerShell module, which is install module Zero Trust Assessment. So I have opened up this PowerShell with admin rights, right? So that is necessary to run any of those commands in order to install module or update module or anything of that sort. So let it run or install this, and perfect. Let me hit yes to all the respected modules and packages that it needs to be installed in order to execute all of that scripts, right? And then once it is completed, we should be ready to run the assessment, right? So let's wait for 2 maximum minutes. So this should be done. This is not going to take much time, right? And this is going to take maybe 1 or 2 minutes. Sometimes it depends on the many different factors, be it network or speed of the local computer and all of that stuff. So this should be easy to perfect. So this is completed. You can see I'll just clear the screen, and so this is the command where we can export, or by running this command, you can see that it says invoke-jetty assessment. So this is going to execute this command, and it is going to ask for those permissions because I'm running this command first time. That means it should ask for the permissions to be able to grant all those permissions which I showed you right on the page on the browser. And once you grant all those permissions to be get into your tenant and then execute, and then it is going to take few seconds or maybe minutes depending on your how big is your tenant, right? If the tenant is very big where you have thousands and lakhs of objects across the tenant, then it's going to take some time, including devices and policies and configurations and identities and everything together. And then it is going to calculate, and then it is going to export all of that report, right? So I have the tenant, which is pretty small. It shouldn't take much time, but let's go ahead and execute this one. And it should ask for the authentication. So it is asking me to authenticate myself. So let's go ahead and authenticate with admin accounts. It needs the admin account, right? I need to enter the credentials here in order to authenticate, as I'm trying to do this first time, right? And once it is done, here you can see it is asking number of permissions that it needs to be able to read from the tenant itself, right? And once it is read, or once it got all the permissions, then it should be ready to go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and accept it. So perfect, authentication is complete. We can go ahead and go back to the PowerShell. So now here you can see running Zero Trust Assessment. Please wait. That means this is running the complete commandlets, right? And then it is going to take time. As I said, it depends on the tenant size and how big the tenant is, right? And basis on that, it is going to export all those functionalities, all those implementations, all those configurations which we have already built, and wherever we need to focus and work on the Zero Trust security posture improvement, right? So let's give it 1 or 2 minutes, and it should be uh, exported for us. So this is not going to take much time, but this should be veggie, and depending on the size and all other factors, because this is going to connect to the tenant and whatever the permissions we have granted, it has to validate each and every permissions, whether that those permissions are appropriately set up, configured, it whatever it needs, and perfect. So here we have this report with us. So I'll simply go back to this path, and from there I can just get that file. So I'll simply Windows R and enter that path and go to this path, and I can simply open up this file. So here you can see that this path is, it has the file and it should open up quickly. Perfect. So the file is open here, right? This is in Excel format, and you can see it has exported the details. Now you might be wondering, this is something which is showing up for this tenant, and how would you identify it and know? Here you can see that at the top, which says Zero Trust Assessment for this is my tenant name, right? And here you can see also the tenant ID, and then generated by this user account, right? So this is that admin account, and then you can see the bunch of details here in this circular format, where security policy enforcements, real-time policy evaluation, how that is happening, and everything together. And very interesting to see that is, if you go here and click on different tabs, let's say from device assessment, you get to see lot many things. Wherever there's a security needs to be implemented and needs an improvement, right? So it is going to give us all of that details. Where you see wherever it is showing completed, that means that is set up appropriately, and there is need on certain level where you need to work on the not started policies. Let's say configure compliance policies for Android AOSP, right? And then similarly on the configure policies for Android Enterprise fully managed and corporate owned devices. So if you click on it, you can see it here. And here it is going to give you the bit of description, what it does, what it is going to be, and how this policy can help you, and how you can remediate, and what would be the impact of this remediation, right? This change will have low impact on your users if we remediate. And what is the remediation? So it says that create and assign the Android enterprise compliance policy, right? So this is asked us to do it. And here you can see also the score of Zero Trust Assessment, right? So this is the current score that we have on our tenant, and this tenant has this score mapped for the Intune policies, the device assessment overall, right? Also, you see that in progress policies, which says Android root detection is enabled on the device compliance policy, right? And then here you can see user impact and risk levels. So basis on all of those factors, you can filter it down, which has high risk as well as the user impact. You can go ahead and work on those policy and improve on your security posture, right? And then it is going to give you the complete visibility, what are the steps that you should take, and how you can work on security improvement. Similarly, on the identity side, here are also different results, and many of those are already completed and few are not started, and many of them are not or completed at all, right? So wherever those are completed, that means those are completed and there is no further actions or need to take effect, right? And okay, it says reference is not valid. Instead, the very important part of this is that wherever it shows not started and P1, P0, those are the priorities. And if P0, if there is a P0, that means on the top priority or high risk levels. And if it is P1, that means that's the moderate or second level priority. And if it is P2, that means that is something a kind of moderate as well as a low level priority, right? So you need to go ahead and filter those out and understand its moderate, understand its risk level and user impact, and you should definitely work on those priorities and get it done, right? So let's look at some of the device configurations as well for automatic enrollment. Here are the certain policies that are available and we can create across the Intune. And there are certain policies that I have created on the Intune side as well, right? And here you can see the complete graphical representation or view of all those policies and risk levels and everything, which policy does what and how it is configured, how it is going to be impacted, right? Wherever it is applied, which groups are it is enforcing. So everything and all of that details is available here. And this is something which is going to be a bit of time consuming at initial stage, but once you are familiar with this all of these steps and everything, then you are good to go ahead and take the appropriate actions, right? And you should be good to uh, take the further steps. For the identity configuration, this is going to show us the identity Azure AD tenant configurations and focusing on workload identities with conditional access policies. So currently there is nothing for workload identity, and that is why there is no data or no records at all. Then the data roadmap, no and protective data. So we have many things to understand the data sites or data estate, and then we can take the steps, first step, then and the next. So there are different steps that we should take in order to protect the data. And you can see all of these steps are not taken. That means we have a lot to work on all of these data structure or data capabilities, right? Starting from sensitivity data discovery, and then identify sharing with customers, data classification, right? Data protection, data loss prevention, managing the data, how data should be accessible to the internal and external people, data identification. So all of that is going to be part of this as well, right? And then let's look at the devices roadmap. Under the device roadmap, it starts from the tenant administration from the beginning, where we would be able to see the terms, conditions, then customization, RBAC, right? And then MAM protection policies for iOS devices, right? And then MAM for Android devices, and then MDM for iOS and Android, and then how we can manage those devices effectively. So you can see that there are many policies and then in many configurations we can go ahead and do that. And it is not yet started. That means if we don't have that completed and configured appropriately, that means we are not following certain configurations. And it totally depends on organization, how organization is going to implement that. And it is something organization has to identify their risk postures and everything together, and then they can go ahead and implement. There would be an organization or there would be a requirement where we don't need to implement each and everything. Instead, we should focus on certain areas where we wanted to make sure our security posture is not lacking there, and we should have a right set of policies, a right set of configurations in terms of device management, network, data, applications and systems and everything, even if people are working from home or any locations or remotely and anything, right? We don't care about it, but we should have everything intact so that we are making sure everything is implemented rightly or correctly. Let's go back and let's look at some of the identity roadmaps, right? Where we can focus on and work on, right? So under the apps, you can see there are many categories where we can work on and improve on: users and groups section, and then devices, then operations, and there are other factors as well, right? So yes, this is how the Zero Trust Assessment tool and how this is going to help us, right? Definitely you need to understand it, and this is going to be a continuous implementation. It is not today we have exported this report and just going through, and we just should start rolling out conditional access policies for devices to control, then roll out CA for risk controls and roll out CA for external identities. we should also look at how we can make the balance between controlling it completely, and so that people who are working from home or remotely, and they are interacting with customers, partners, vendors, and they should also be interacting with people who are they working with, maybe internal or external. And the most important part of that is how and when and who are those organizations where the company is dealing with or the business is working with, right? They also need to communicate with those people so that they should be able to collaborate and work on things, right? Otherwise it is going to be something like, by implementing security, we are trying to block the business at certain level or certain stage. That should not be the case here as well, right? So we need to work on all those things and make the balance between everything, and make sure we are also deploying the right set of policies and security and everything, and improve on security posture, right? So yeah, that's all for this video I wanted to show you and talk about. Hope you will like it, and hope you will learn something new out of this one. And let me know if you have seen and experienced and used this before, and what are your experiences, what are your thoughts around it? Was it helpful? Were you able to improve on security posture? And how it helped for your team and your organization and your overall experience, right? So yeah, that's all for this video. I would encourage you to go ahead and watch other videos around Microsoft Enter ID up to 365, Azure and FinOps. And yeah, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching. Bye for now.